Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is definitely a dream and a bucket list item for so many people, and it's achievable, but it takes some preparation. Now, before you lace up your hiking boots and book your flight to Tanzania, there's one thing that I really recommend you do, and that is schedule an appointment to visit with your doctor. This isn't just about packing a few extra things in your blister kit. It's about ensuring that your body and your mind are ready for the extreme conditions that you're gonna face on Mount Kilimanjaro. Today, I'm diving into the essential questions that you should probably ask your doctor before you dive into this epic, amazing journey. Think of this as your pre-climb checklist. First, let's talk about your overall health and fitness. Kilimanjaro isn't a walk in the park. It is an extreme high altitude adventure. But with that being said, you don't need to be an elite athlete to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I am a pudgy 45-year-old woman and I made it to the summit. And if I can make it to the summit, you can make it to the summit. But you need to generally be in pretty decent shape in order to get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, but also just to feel better along your hike. So sitting down with your doctor and talking about your health in general is really important. As a breast cancer survivor, I thought it was really important for me to sit down with both my oncologist and my primary care physician before I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And I asked them a lot of questions. Generally, I wanted to know if they felt like I was healthy enough to handle the climb. I wanted to know if there would be any problems with taking Diamox to prevent altitude sickness with the cancer medications that I was taking, and I just generally wanted their thoughts on my overall health and fitness. I had a pretty good relationship with both my primary care physician and my oncologist, so I felt like they would tell me the truth, but to be Next, it's important to talk to your physician about altitude sickness. If you are lucky enough to have a physician who climbs mountains and who isn't scared of altitude, they are going to know a lot more about the prevention of altitude sickness, the symptoms of altitude sickness, and what to do if altitude sickness symptoms become really severe. Now, if you have a physician who is not a mountain climber and doesn't understand altitude sickness or doesn't have a lot of knowledge about altitude sickness, then it might be worth a conversation with a different doctor who does have that knowledge and that expertise. When you're talking to your doctor about altitude sickness, you might want to ask if you have any pre-existing health conditions that might affect how you feel at altitude. This could be a heart condition, a cardiovascular condition, even diabetes might affect how you feel at altitude. When you're talking to your doctor about altitude sickness, this is also a great opportunity to talk about the possibility of getting the prescription drug Diamox. Diamox helps prevent altitude sickness. I took it on Kilimanjaro, I used it in Peru. I think it's an incredible medication, but if you're allergic to sulfa drugs, you might be allergic to Diamox. And if you're on other medications, I don't really know how that will affect Diamox, but definitely have that conversation with your doctor. And if you don't want to go on a medication like Diamox to help prevent altitude sickness, your doctor might have some other ideas about what you could do. I've heard about things like Viagra being used to prevent altitude sickness, and I've also heard about high doses of ibuprofen. While you're talking about Diamox and prescription medications, it might be a good time to also ask your doctor if they would consider getting you a prescription drug like antibiotics or an anti-nausea medicine, something that you can take on the mountain if you just start to feel really, really crummy. I just had my annual exam with my primary care doctor and I got my prescription for Diamox refilled. And then I asked my primary care doctor if I could get a Z-Pack. I'm not gonna abuse antibiotics. I don't think that's cool, but I would like to have antibiotics on hand just in case I start to feel really, really sick and can't get to a doctor quickly in country to get treated for whatever is not feeling awesome. Your doctor may be willing to give you a prescription for antibiotics, but they may not. It just kind of comes down to your doctor, the relationship with your doctor and how your doctor feels about you having some emergency medications in your first aid kit. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. I don't play a doctor on YouTube. So these are all great conversations for you to have with your doctor, and why it's so important that you schedule that appointment so you can talk through all of these things. And finally, before any international trip, it's important to talk to your doctor about vaccinations. Vaccinations they recommend based off where you're traveling and what the current medical conditions are in that country. For Kilimanjaro last year, all of my vaccinations were up to date except for Hep A, Hep B, and I also got the yellow fever vaccination, which isn't required unless you're traveling through Ethiopia. I just wanted to cover all my bases and get all of the vaccinations. I am an Army veteran and I go to the VA to see my primary care physician. Some of the vaccinations that I needed weren't available at the VA, so I actually went to our local public health clinic and was able to get the rest of the vaccinations that I needed. And when I went to public health, I actually got to talk to a travel nurse. She had a really good understanding about the health conditions, not just in Tanzania, but I told her I was going to Peru and Patagonia. So she was able to walk me through things that I could do when I'm traveling to stay healthy. She gave me advice about water and food and hand washing, all of those basic things, but it was nice to just spend an hour talking to a travel nurse who was really informed about all of these places. After climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I think it's really important to sit down with your doctor and talk about your medical history, talk about safety, talk about vaccinations, all of those things. Because if you're feeling good and healthy and strong on Mount Kilimanjaro, it's going to increase your chances to get to the summit and you're going to have so much more fun. So call, schedule an appointment with your doctor. And if you've climbed Kilimanjaro, I'd like to know your thoughts on if you disagree or agree with me about seeing your doctor and scheduling a checkup before your climb. Thanks so much. Now go check out this video over here because YouTube thinks you're going to like it.